Hello, work wives, work wifey, Emily. Hello.
Hello, I'm so excited. This is my favorite day of the week.
I like yesterday when the episode came out from last week, I didn't even realize it was Tuesday until I saw that the episode came out. I'm like, oh my God, it's Tuesday already. Like,
Right? It sneaks up on us.
I don't know what's happening to time, but
But
we're here
everyone
for
is
another episode of
loving,
Work Wives.
and they're loving the you standing up in the what you shared last week about how you stood up in a meeting and was like, that's terrible advice. People are loving that you did that.
Oh, well,
So
thank you, everybody.
bolstering me to maybe want to do that someday if I
You
need
gotta
to.
stick up for what's right, you know?
Yeah,
If you don't
absolutely.
stand for,
If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
there you go.
I had to really slow down to see me process that. And I still might have gotten it wrong.
I think it's right.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's hard sometimes, right, to stand up for things because you feel, well, it's hard for me. I'm not going to speak for other people. It's hard for me because part of my nature, especially as an Enneagram 3, is that I want to be liked. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
um there has been times when it's been harder for me to stand up for myself, or I think it's harder for me to stand up for myself, easier for me to stand up for other people for like
Yes.
what's right.
Yeah. Because the people you're standing up for will still like you.
Mm, yeah, maybe.
I find it hard to stand up for myself or to hold a boundary or to like very be vocal with my needs in a public way or outside of my like very, very close people because it's like as an Enneagram 6, it's very unsafe because what if my needs aren't met? Or what if like people
Mm-hmm.
turn on me or something like that? So it's very like with James, I'm fine. With you, I'm fine. But there's definitely some people where that's why I'm a people pleaser because it's
Mm-hmm.
too scary and unsafe to not say yes.
And
So
like might lose my place in
might lose my
this.
place, like might jeopardize my opportunities, might,
Yeah.
like there's too much like risk in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though it's the right thing to do. I even
Yeah.
like I'll struggle doing the right thing because I'm scared, which is something I'm actively working on
Yeah. I feel that.
sometimes. Sometimes I'm just kind of like, I'm just gonna sit over here and eat my ice cream and ignore everything else instead.
Yeah. And like I think it also depends on like, I mean, I've felt this as it relates also to like charitable giving and things like that, is
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to stand up for the things that you're really passionate about. And if you're not really passionate
Yes.
about it, it's much harder to like stand up for it. Where like in that specific scenario where I was speaking to that group and kind of protecting team members through the lens of efficiency, it's something I'm very well versed in. It's
Yeah.
something I'm really passionate about, can speak to at an expert level at this point in my career. And I, like I said, same thing about like charitable giving, I don't have to like give to every cause, even causes that are absolutely worthy of generosity. Like I
Yes.
can't give to everything and be able to make a big impact, but like what is important to me, And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people will request a donation or something, and I'm like, not going to give a donation to that. And it's not because I don't think it's a good cause. It's just that maybe my funds are going towards the thing that we're really passionate about,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
hard,
It's
but
hard to say
maybe,
like I choose this and not that. When
yeah, but it's
everything
like,
you want it to be for everything.
yeah, but it's like, what do you care enough about to do something about,
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
not the same for everybody. So,
No. And I think sometimes I want to make change, but like you're saying, there's only so many resources. And I think I'm
yeah.
so glad that at Clockwork we work with Erica Corday and do DEI work because she's so helpful at helping people like explain that that's okay and understand that that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
because like every single person can only make so much impact and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
really helpful with that, so love her. Shout out to her.
Love it.
How was your
What
weekend
else?
really quick? I know that it was Mother's Day, which last week we were like is an up and down day for a lot of people. How
Yeah.
was yours?
Mine was delightful. My 3-year-old is like old enough to know now what Mother's
Yes,
Day is, and be able to celebrate me. And her school did like some cute
I know, I miss
stuff,
those.
went over the top, and so that was really nice. And then our nanny had my baby Coco like do some art for me too. So that was sweet. It's always the sweetest to like get their stuff and spent the day with the fam. And I took a nap, which was delightful.
Glorious. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll take like an hour nap, but I didn't set an alarm, which I normally do, and I didn't. And I woke up 2 hours later and I was like panicked. I was like, oh my God, I slept too long. And my husband was like, no, I wanted you to sleep. Like it's fine. So that was amazing. My mom, Mary, was in town this weekend, and that's always a delight. And
love Mary.
The girls are loving her more and more every time she comes, you know, like when grandparents are not local, you got to really like build the trust, especially with Kit. It takes time. So good. We had a great weekend and we tried to go skating.
Like rollerblading?
Figure skating.
I almost said figure skating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I was like, no, not figure skating.
Yeah.
Like roller skate, like a roller skating rink. My niece wanted to go. My niece is 6. So my brother went and me and Mary, Oma, and Kit. I brought Kit. Kit is 3 for those of you listening and very uncoordinated. So as soon as I like put the skates on her, she was like sitting down on this like bench thing, and then she tried to stand up, immediately fell on.
She's like, that's it.
And then she was like traumatized for the rest of the time. And I like tried, there was like a practice room, but it was like all the way across the rink. So I had to, and she like would not stand up. And she had like one of those like
the support things. Our kids use them for figure skating.
Yeah. And she
like
wouldn't hold on to that, like a walker. Yes, made out of like PVC pipes.
Yeah.
And wouldn't hold on to that. Like she was traumatized. And so then I picked her up. And mind you, I'm on roller skates for the first time in like 20 years.
Sounds so dangerous for your tailbone.
So dangerous. And I did not fall, but I did get reprimanded by the teenagers that were working there. They're like, you can't hold her. You have to put her down. I'm like, you tell her.
That's my worst nightmare. A teenager reprimanding me for something and they're right. Like I
like
will never be here again. We'll never come back.
Completely unsafe, right? But I'm also have a 3-year-old clung to me. Like she will not let go of me because she does not want to be put down on the roller skating rink. But there's no way for me to get to the practice room without going across. I was like, how do you suggest I get her over there to the practice rink? The girl was like, I don't know. I was like, oh my God.
So how was the rest of your time on the bed?
Our skates off and we bought pizza.
Perfect. Pizza fixes everything. Unless you're my children. Then it causes a fight.
And they played video games later and won a bunch of tickets and bought a little crap in the, you know.
Love that for them.
Yeah.
I've had to embrace that's just what my son wants. He's like the crab from Moana. He just wants all the little tiny shiny things. Yes.
The shiny crab.
Yeah. So I've just embraced it. Like, give me every Happy Meal toy ever made. One day when some days when he's not looking, I just go and like do a big sweep of the thing, like, and it's all disappears. Yeah. And then he'll ask for it 3 months later, and I'm like,
I don't know.
Have you seen the state of your room? I don't know where it is.
Must have misplaced it.
Yeah.
We don't need all of those things. Yeah. So had a great time, great Mother's Day, and I am fending off. I was just telling you, I'm fending off another cold. So pray for me, everyone, because if I get sick with another toddler cold, that's like 3 times in 6 weeks, and I just can't live anymore.
Do you take like things like echinacea, like vitamins, like cold vitamin?
They'll take like prenatals because I'm still nursing a little. No, nothing other than that.
I feel like maybe
I should.
Yeah. Right before when we were prepping to go to Disney, and we didn't tell the kids why, but we were like pumping everyone full of like vitamin C defense and like all of the things to try to stay healthy, you know?
Yeah.
And it worked. So.
All right. Well, I did get an email last night for Florida residents for Disney, like this like super deal.
Okay,
and
so
it's on the table again. I talked to Tyler about it last night. He's like, I'm game for a Disney vacation. I was like, wait, really? Like, because you were not game the last time we talked about this. He was like, well, the last time we talked about it, like church was passing away. Like it was just a chaotic, time at the house.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm definitely open to talking about it again. So I might be going to Disney this summer. It's going to be hot as hell, but
can I bring my kids? Just me and the kids. James can't come because he has a tyrant of a job, but it doesn't have a vacation time, but like I could come.
Yeah. I mean, how can we pass you as a Florida resident would be the real, I think you even have to, I don't know. Do you have to like, does everyone have to be a Florida resident per ticket? Or just
Okay,
the
so, but
person
I have
buying
heard,
them?
I actually, because I'm still on Disney Talk, because I scoop up all of the things,
Yeah.
that Disney is actually offering huge incentives for people to come this summer because for various reasons, no one wants to go to Florida. So
Okay, yes.
so like they're doing 25% off resort stays, and they're doing a discount on park tickets.
Yep.
For only the summer, because I know it's historically like
It's also
a challenging
lower
because it's so hot.
Yeah, it's so hot. No one wants to go. So that's why I was like, okay, I don't really want to go in the summer, but the tickets were like, if we do 4 days, which is a lot for us, but you don't have to do them consecutive. So it was like 4 days. They were like $58 per ticket. I was
Oh
like,
my God.
It was like $229 for 4 days.
You have to go.
Oh, I feel like I have to go.
It's no brainer.
Right?
Like you're going. I've decided for you.
Florida resident.
Sorry,
like,
Tyler.
That's really, no, he wants to go. Like he is actually a Disney dad now. So
good.
that's
I'm happy we converted him. Just takes one visit.
I know.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Good for you.
Yeah.
I hate you a little bit, but that's fine.
But maybe we can figure out the logistics of like how to get you to be a Florida resident. You know?
We'll figure that out somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just change my name to Mary.
All right, tell me about your Mother's Day. Was it good?
It was good. It was good.
Donuts.
I got gourmet donuts. It was the only thing I requested, and I got them. Not from the original place I wanted, but actually the ones that we got were better. So I got gourmet donuts. They were so good. And
I did forget to tell you that my Mother's Day was a complete disappointment because I didn't get the Taylor Swift tickets I asked for.
I was really hoping you were going to get the Taylor Swift tickets and I was going to get in on that. But
yeah.
And Tyler, I love you dearly, but the fact that you got a piece of paper of something
in a card, like I opened the card and there's a folded piece of paper in the card, and I was like, no,
God, he did
no way, he did it. He somehow like moved mountains to somehow figure out like which city I'm going to be going to. He got me a plane ticket. He got me
he did not.
hotel. He got me the Taylor tickets, and I'm going to open this piece of paper and it's going to tell me that I'm going to Taylor Swift in Denver or wherever, right?
Yeah, no.
It was not what I opened.
You got a really good gift though.
I got a really good gift. I'm going to the spa. I'm actually going to spa. He also scheduled it, which is key.
That's 95% of the battle.
Right. Because like, sure, I have this spa gift card, but like
now I have to figure it out.
I'm never going to use it, you know, because I don't schedule it. So he scheduled it. So I'm going on Friday for the day.
Nice.
To get a couple services and just chill. So it was a really great gift, but like when in your mind you're opening Taylor Swift tickets for another city and you're flying there and you're about to like go see Taylor again, like there is a like moment of disappointment, you know, that creeped in.
I feel you. I knew that there was no shot in hell of getting Taylor Swift tickets. So
you knew that was not what you were opening.
It was not on the table. Maybe when she comes to Canada. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got donuts and then I read my book and I drank some mimosas and I had a nap as well. And I got a board game that I really have been asking for, and we played it. Not Oakley, because he would have just flipped at the table. But me and James and Lila played, and we went for dinner with my parents. And this sounds so like boring, but it truly was like the best gift. I have wanted a rain jacket, like a shell, for a very long time. I walk every single day. I walked through the rainy season without a raincoat. I just got wet all the time. And I have been...
Why did you buy this for yourself?
Because they're really expensive. They're like a good quality one is like $100, $200, you know, and I just like I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Like do for yourself, but
you know, because I had all the proof that I walked in the rain and was fine, you know? So, but then it's like the perfect coat and I'm really, really happy with it. And when people nail like things that you really want and need and also nail it perfectly, like it's the perfect color, it's the perfect size, it meets all of the things.
Nice.
It doesn't have a lining, so it's like not going to be hot. It's perfect. I'm so happy with it. And I know that sounds so boring. Like I got a raincoat, but I'm really very
raincoat.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's amazing. How did he know to like make like did you send him the exact specification?
No.
Oh.
He's actually really good at picking out that kind of stuff.
Oh.
Like he knows what colors I
never.
like, and he like has a pretty good size, you know, and
Yeah.
and he listens to like the details of what I'm looking for. Like if I'm out shopping, I'm like, oh, this isn't right because it's blah blah blah. Like he remembers those.
He remembers
things.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was really happy. And I treated
Quite the
myself to
catch
new
you
running
have.
shoes. So it's a win.
So you'll be walking in those.
Yeah, they're so comfortable. Some new
Nice.
Nikes.
Nice.
And I'm usually like a what's on sale at like TJ Maxx girl for my shoes. But I was like, no, I'm gonna go get some good ones. And they're great. So like all in all, a very boring but predictable, like not boring, like a very like
low key
practical, but like just filled all of the like it was exactly what I needed and wanted. So it was a win.
Love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And now this week for Dear Work Wives, we're going to do something different. We're still going to talk about stories, but there have been some HR kind of stories in the news lately. And then that like led us down a little bit of a Reddit rabbit hole because we all know Reddit is just gold for things.
Yes, all the things I get so sucked into.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little like Reddit news cap. So what originally I thought maybe I was like, oh, we could talk about the Kelly Clarkson thing, but it's like by the time this airs, the Kelly Clarkson thing is going to be like, we're going to be past it.
Yeah.
But it does bring up the like, you know, it's one of the biggest profile, like toxic work environments. And even the people who say like they went to HR and HR did nothing. And like, that's why they had to go to Rolling Stone magazine. I'm like, if that's happening on like such a large public scale, like it's happening every single day to every single person.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's go to Reddit and the news and see what we can find, because I know there's going to be some good stories that we need to dissect.
But let us not disgrace Kelly's name by not giving more clarity for those who did not hear that story.
Thank you for that catch, because in my like I would never like disgrace Kelly's name. Like I know that it was not Kelly Clarkson. It was actually her executive producer.
Yeah, it was like a producer on the show.
Creating like a toxic work environment.
Terrible to work for. So
yes. And the people who did the story say that Kelly Clarkson had no idea about any of this.
Right. Which, and like, the people also who worked there who were saying that this executive producer was terrible were also saying that Kelly is actually delightful.
A delight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just gives vibes of like she really just comes to work and like is her incredible self, America's sweetheart, and then leaves.
Yeah, she's like clockworked. Like she's not in all of the things.
Do the show, I'm out. Which like as she should be.
Right.
She's clockworked. All she has to do is show up and sing her songs and interview her guests.
Yeah. And goodbye.
But it does like it also highlights, and this is not me throwing shade at Kelly Clarkson, but it's like there can very easily be things happening in your company that you do not know about.
Yeah. And like, what's your responsibility to that, especially when your name is on it?
Right.
Because she's not getting like dragged, but her name is associated in these articles. And so I'm sure there are people who aren't reading the article and just assuming it's an Ellen situation of like,
exactly.
Oh, Kelly must be this terrible person. It's like, well, no, but what is your responsibility to the brand of like knowing what's going on? And how do you do that as a Kelly Clarkson? Or do you need to like have someone on the team who's responsible for that, you know, because it shouldn't be her job to necessarily like spend time
doing HR.
In HR. Yeah. But like, what's wrong with HR that like they're not doing their job?
Yeah, like she is in the grand scheme of things, just like another cog in the wheel. Like she is, she has her role. Her role is to show up and be the host of the show.
Yeah, and she is probably an employee of the show.
An NBC.
And they're just utilizing her brand name, right?
Yes, so collateral. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Like I love Kelly Clarkson. I remember a few months ago you were like, I don't get the Kelly Clarkson hype, and I sent you like 4 things, and you're like, I get it. I
was like, I'm in.
Yeah. I'm in. How could you not? I will never forget Kelly Clarkson beating Justin Guarini on season 1 of American Idol. Like, and I've
I
loved her ever
remember.
since.
Epic. I guess her music was just never like my,
Cup of tea.
yeah, like I like it, but I was never
Yeah.
like, oh my God, Kelly Clarkson.
Totally. And
But she is a very talented, like when you sent me all those, I was like, wow, she is incredibly talented. Yeah.
yeah. But like, since you've been gone.
I mean, I
Iconic.
like it, but
Iconic.
like, since you've been gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's just not, it's not probably a song I would choose to put on.
It's also from like 2004. So, you know, it's like 20 years old almost. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, anyway, was like, we're not going to talk about Kelly, but we just did. But there's the gist of it. Like a reminder to everyone that you might not know what's really going on at your company because like you have clockworked yourself out of it, or you like, so just, but if you are the owner, the CEO, or upper management, like you still have some responsibility for what's happening. So make sure there's systems in place.
I will say, even as a team of like, what, 9?
Yeah.
I have 2 department heads, right? Like 2 managers effectively.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know necessarily certain
dynamics or
that are, dynamics that are going on in their department because they shield me or protect me from some of those things, because it's also like their responsibility at some level to like handle it and work through it. And then at some point it might escalate to me.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't know like certain dynamics of what's going on, you know, until weeks later.
Until you need to.
Or until it's over. So it's resolved, or sometimes I never know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very true.
So,
yeah.
Can't imagine in like large companies, you know.
Literally. Okay, let's dive in because we really went for it with this intro.
Yeah, we really talked a long time.
Ooh, sorry,
What's
people.
What's this podcast about again?
Oh, not really. Sorry. Okay. The first story we have is a Reddit one. It says, why bother with employee engagement? I work at a nonprofit public sector place that has mostly low-income people of color as clients. Organization likes to pretend they give a shit about employees and continually do surveys, and the results are always the same. Hey, management, stop hiring your white male friends into made-up management positions. Just recently, another BS position was created at a 6-figure salary and was given to a white dude whose only digital experience is surfing the internet, even though there were other more qualified people who would have been interested if only HR had bothered to post the job. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I think this is a common occurrence of, you know, the why bother with employee engagement surveys. Like, why are you asking us when you don't actually listen to anything that we're saying, which is a huge toxic trait of corporate companies in general, right? And small businesses do this too. We are not immune to this, but like anytime that you're giving people employee engagement surveys or you're asking for their feedback, just know that at some point, if you just continuously like directly ignore that, you're going to have a retention problem. You're going to have an engagement problem, because they're going to start getting really frustrated and being like, why am I wasting my time giving you feedback when you do the opposite? You do nothing with it, right? Yeah. Like incredibly frustrating. Insulting. Yeah. Clearly you don't even value my time that I'm
because you're asking me to do this thing.
You're asking me to do nothing with it.
You're
doing nothing with it, which is sort of like you're trying to like placate me, right? Like you're trying to pretend that you care, which is worse than just not caring at all to me.
Totally.
Like I'd rather you just be direct to be like, we are not going to do what, like, we don't care what you do.
I don't want to hear what you have to say.
Right. Like,
I'm not proactively seeking your opinion. Like that's the thing. If you're going to proactively,
also a place to be, like you can be that. Like to me, that's less offensive than being like, oh, what do you have to say? And then tell
me about your world. Yeah. Like how could we improve your happiness or whatever? And then people are like, well, you know, you could stop hiring unqualified people. Like
you could post the job to us
equitable.
First,
you know, you could try some equitable practices. Like,
yeah, this person needs obviously, or this company obviously needs some DEI support. And it's also like really frustrating when HR is doing the thing that you need to report to HR. Like,
oh, I would be out. Like, I feel like in this scenario, if the people who are supposed to
be protecting you.
And I know that people say like HR is actually not there to protect the employees, they're there to protect the company.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily agree with. We're gonna have someone speak at our Clockwork like a virtual event this year, who is an HR expert. And she has the opposite opinion. Like HR is there to kind of like bridge the gap and make sure that policies are being followed and making sure those policies are equitable.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think that's where this, like, if I'm working for a company that's not putting equitable policies in place or following them, I would need to find a way out eventually.
Yeah, because it's a values rub for sure. And it sounds like it is for this person too. And I think that if you're at a place where, you know, HR is not that bridge, you know, I agree that HR does need to protect the company at some degree, right? Like, and have, you know, documented policies and processes, et cetera. And they should be bridging that gap for making sure that you are protected as an individual, as a staff member, that you have a place that you feel safe, that you can go to, making sure that practices and policies are equitable. If those things are not happening, if you don't feel that HR is the bridge or is, you know, performing both sides of that equation, then I think it's actually a really risky place to stay, you know, because what if something like happened to you and then you didn't feel like you could go to them to be protected? Like, this is, you know, the scenario here is they hired someone who was unqualified. That's very frustrating. You know, obviously it's a values rub, but like, what if you were like sexually assaulted at your work and then they're not, you know, protecting you? Like, you're like, no,
the
you need to
slippery
make
slope,
sure that these,
you know,
slippery slope of like, do these people have my back? Can I go to them with things that are coming up for me at work that don't feel equitable or safe here, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like if you don't feel, that's why it's so important to get clear on your values and company values right from the beginning, because that is something that people cannot hide, you know, like it's going to show up. And if you start seeing things showing up, like that's one time, like you really have to listen. I remember in a previous role I had, it was my first job after having Lila. So we'd moved from BC back to Ontario. And so in Canada, on your mat leave, like you can go back to your job after the year, like they have to hold a position for you, but I moved. So I had to start job hunting again. And I just had like a little baby. And so I was kind of like, I need to find a job, you know? So I found a job and you know, everything was looking good. And then within the first month, there were some like glaring red flags, you know, like this is not a safe environment. This is a values rub for me. Like, you know, ethically, morally, like, I don't know, but I was like, I needed a job and like, there was a lot of like other things that were good. There always are. And then when one particular incident happened, I got kind of like love bombed after it. And then I was like, okay, well, it's fine. But then the red flags kept showing up and I like completely ignored them. And in the way, like along the way, like other opportunities came up that I just was like, well, I'm comfortable here. And so I lost like really other great, good opportunities during that time because I was ignoring these values, like the things that were in opposition with what I wanted, but I was scared. I needed a solid income, right? So it's kind of like I was buying a house at the time. Like, anyway, all that to say, like, if you see red flags around things like this, run for the hills.
Yeah, it's like dating, right? Like, sometimes like we see the red flags and we want it to work out, so we just ignore them. And then hindsight, it's like really like, man,
should have,
And I think a lot of it is like very similar in like, oh, I didn't have enough self-confidence, or I didn't have enough self-worth, or I didn't, you know, I thought there was nothing
else out there for me. Yeah. You know, like the good outweighs the bad, you know, like that's when like pros and cons list, super helpful. But like, you also have to do a weighted pros and cons list because maybe the one con outweighs all of the pros, you know,
or all the pros.
So
if you need to do some weighted math,
we'll send you a spreadsheet.
Tyler.
So anyway, this is a horrible situation, and especially like not especially, but like a nonprofit, you're probably in that position because you love the work and it's, you want to make an impact, but there are lots of nonprofits who would love your talent. So
and it's also just like really like they say that the nonprofit specifically is in a sector that supports mostly low income people of color, and like to have
why is there a 6-figure salary as a digital strategist?
Well, that's a good question as well. And like, should we be looking for people of color to also like you understand the needs and experience of the people that we're trying to support and serve? Like, there's just so many reasons that this is all so messed up.
Run. Okay, let's do our next one.
Okay.
So this is actually a story. This was like a story that I found, like a news article printed it. But it was from a Reddit post because that's where all the good ones are. So there was a woman and her boss were on a work trip, and they were flying home on the same flight from a conference, and their original seats were not next to each other. She shared that I'm a frequent traveler on this airline and use their credit card, so I often get free upgrades to first class. I got upgraded on this flight and my boss did not. After the flight, the woman's boss said she wanted to talk to her about her lack of respect for protocol. She thought that because the company paid for my original ticket and she is more senior than me, I should have given her the first class seat. Isn't that
Even
wild?
though it's on her like points account. And so
she had to use her own card to book. The company reimbursed her, but she had to use her own credit card to book that flight, or it wouldn't have been attached to her thing, right?
Yeah. And like she either traveled or accumulated points in other ways that made her worthy of the upgrade. It had nothing to do with the company. Like, absolutely not. I would be like, for example, if we were on a flight and you got an upgrade and I didn't, I would be like, yes, Emily, live your best life.
Go drink all those mimosas.
Yes. I wouldn't be like, you
must give it to me.
I should be getting the upgrade. Well, if you want the upgrade, you pay for it, bitch. Like,
it's like such a weird power trip dynamic. Like, especially because like, where were you going? Dubai? Like, at most, this is like a 4-hour flight.
Logic. Like, there's zero logic in that because it was on her card. Like, they're her points. They're her, like, what? You were not eligible for an upgrade. She was. They just upgraded her, like it's not even like she had to pay for anything or use points. They were just like,
oh, loyalty program, thanks for being a good friend.
Flying with us all the time. Like,
wild. The power struggle about having to have a meeting and like lack of respect for protocol. What protocol? What protocol was she not respecting?
I don't know. How do you not laugh in that meeting? Like,
I would have just... And I guess the question is like, what do you do?
Your eyes not roll into the back of your head?
Yeah. Like if this is like, not like, how do you take that seriously? Like if you were to pull me into a meeting because of this and you're like, this is a problem, I would like, what's the solution then?
That's like
you're better than me. That's where we're coming. You're better than me and I must honor that.
Yeah, if someone pulled me into the office and had this conversation with me, I would be like, what is the specific protocol that you're referring to, right? Because I feel like when you like, this person is obviously out of their mind, so we have to point to like policy. They're saying systems. Protocol. Okay, so what is the protocol? Like, give me facts, right? Like, I need facts. I need to better understand. Or like, what do you think happened? Like, do you think that the company paid for that? Like, is there potentially any confusion here, right? That we could address first? And then like, point me to the facts. I will be very respectful of like, point me to the facts. Point me to like, what is the protocol that we're referring to? That person will have nothing to point to, and then it will all just like, they'll look like the idiot,
Yeah, and then you'll have to say like, okay, well, this happened, and would you like me to put a protocol in place for future that states if employees get personal free things that they need to give it to their boss? Because that's essentially what you're saying. Is that a protocol we need to put in writing? Let's send that to HR. And then
we'll run that by HR and see, because I don't really feel like that's equitable, but
right.
Yeah, that's
wild.
Bananas.
I just can't imagine. I love when people post things on Reddit because then it gets like, because this is the stuff that happens every day. Like
I feel
I
bad for people.
am better than you, or I am higher ranked than you, so you must give me your things.
That lady
Like,
needs a therapist.
Eat the rich.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if she's rich, but I just mean like
Clearly she's not. She
doesn't have the freaking flyer miles.
Doesn't have the points.
Yeah. It's wild to me.
Like,
okay,
maybe this is her first flight and she doesn't understand. I could see Tyler's mom like not understanding
how it works.
Because
It's a lottery, yeah.
Before,
yeah.
like, so
it's not a lottery system. They didn't pick names out of a hat.
Right. And even then, like, they picked my name, so okay. Here I am.
Sweet. Yeah. Love it.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's do our last one for today. It's our, I guess Kelly was our bonus one. Okay, I'm a single mom who had the perfect remote position as a senior paralegal. However, I was insanely bullied and harassed by a female attorney who was super close with the boss. I worked harder thinking that would stop, but when it didn't, I went to the owner. Somehow that meeting turned into gaslighting me about production and accusing me of having PTSD. I tried to work through it, but my body was literally responding negatively. Can definitely relate to that. I complained again and was fired. They gave me 1 month's pay to pretty much go away, but I cannot get out of bed, and it's like for the past week. You know, like how am I going to support my family? Why do people think it's okay to do this to someone? I'm 48 and feel like my life is over. That's so sad. This is a Reddit one, so
yeah.
I feel like that's like,
they did you dirty. This is not a you thing. And I know that you're like feeling down and outs, but the way that you're going to like support your family is like, you're perfectly capable of getting another job. Like, you have a really valuable skill set.
Yes.
You are going to be able to go back out there and find a job that isn't more alignment with your values. I also I think sometimes when we go to like job interviews or things like that, we get nervous about like, what if they ask about my previous employment and how, like, if I can't use that as a referral, etc.
Yeah.
But I think that there's also an opportunity to just be honest sometimes of like, this is what happened, and I'm looking for a workplace that values X, Y, and Z, like what your values are, and putting those like at the forefront so that you're maybe avoiding some red flags in the future. I know that like lawyers and, you know, those types of workplaces can be really cutthroat, and I would just want to make sure that whoever you're going to be working with next is in more alignment with your values.
Absolutely.
Because you were mistreated, and there's probably some therapy that's also needed here, like especially if you have some PTSD around this and were mocked about it as well. Like, that's really inappropriate, and you could probably file some sort of lawsuit, but I don't know if you want to go.
I know sometimes it's like more trouble than it's worth, you know,
especially to do it with a legal firm. Like, I think it would be rough, you know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate thing, right? Like,
it's like not worth the,
who has deeper pockets is sometimes gets, you know, away with stuff, and that's not how things should be. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think like, as someone who, you know, I've shared on this podcast before, like I have like visceral reactions to things sometimes. Like I will cry and I can't stop myself from crying, or like you know, and it makes people uncomfortable, even though it has nothing to do with them. A lot of people can't handle outward displays of emotions. And so I understand that feeling of like something like being in a meeting and it's going downhill, and you're feeling like my outward expression is going to like escalate this. And that's such a hard place to be. And it's taken me a long time to even be the tiniest bit okay with that. So I'm first really sorry that's like, you need to find a workplace that values. That's like a hard thing to suss out. Like, are you okay with people having emotions? You know, that's like that's not an interview question. Maybe it should be. Yeah. But I think what this brings up for me, like, obviously this is horrific, the situation, but as someone who does a lot of the hiring here, I personally would just leave this off your resume if you don't want to ask questions about it. I think with the way that our climate around work is changing so much, people don't look at gaps in resumes, or they shouldn't be looking at gaps in resumes with as much scrutiny. Of like, well, what did why didn't you do this? What were you doing for those 6 months or 5 months? It's like, I wouldn't even notice, to be honest.
I wouldn't even notice either. Yeah.
So or a year even.
If I did notice, it wouldn't be like a huge red flag to me, you don't
have anything on your resume. Maybe there's a bajillion things that could have happened that would lead to a gap in a resume.
Totally.
So I would not even, like, personally, I wouldn't want to discuss it in a future, like, tell me about when you worked at this place. Like, I wouldn't want to feel like I have to lie,
badmouth someone, or
like, I don't want to open the can of worms. But I would need to reflect on, like, the values. Like, when you were bullied and harassed by this woman, I'm by no means saying you weren't, but like, what were the scenarios that were happening in there, and how can you kind of suss out if future workplaces would have those kinds of scenarios? Like, what are the power dynamics? Do they work with, like, do they do any sort of DEI? So they're focused on equitable practices. Like, what is happening at future workplaces that would prevent these sort of power dynamics that lead to harassment and bullying?
And I think that's a really good point, of like understanding your values. And then, like, in the interview, like, the interview process is not just for them interviewing you. And I think a lot of times when we're on the job hunt, we're just like, please pick me, right?
Yeah.
But like, you really need to suss out in those interviews, like, you're interviewing them as well. Like, how can you ask good enough questions? And you want to think about this in advance of interviewing people, like, or interviewing companies. Like, how can you ask good enough questions to figure out what are their values? Or even asking, like, can I speak to 2 of your current employees?
Yes.
Like, there's nothing wrong with you asking those things, and doing your due diligence to make sure that this is actually a good fit for you too, right? And for your values as well, not just, sure, I can perform this job,
Yeah. I think trying to figure out, like, what is their retention rate? And I know you're not going to go into an interview and ask, like, what's your retention rate? Maybe you should, but like, how do they focus on team culture? What is important to them in terms of supporting their employees? A lot of those things will actually show up in a compensation package. If you're looking for them, if you're noticing, okay, they have XYZ personal days, or they have these types of benefits, they have whatever, like, you can kind of see how they would potentially be supporting a team culture if it shows up in their compensation package. But you can ask questions and talk to people.
And you should.
So yeah, you should, because again, it's just as much of a risk for you as it is for them.
Yep.
And reward, the risk reward relationship is equal for both of you. So
for sure.
Well, that is our show for the day.
That's
I think we should do this every so often, because I think it's fun, because I like it.
Because you think it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. I think it's fun also, and easy to get some, like, there's always good stories on Reddit. So
yeah,
we will come through there, as well as we'd love to hear some of your stories. You can go to dearworkwives.com to anonymously submit your story, or if you need some advice, if you have a question about something going on in your workplace or your work environment.
Or if there's anything that you've heard that you would love an opinion on, like the world is your oyster in terms of submission. So
yeah, you can even say, can you please talk about X, Y, and Z?
Yes.
Can you please talk about how to ask for a raise, or how to whatever?
Yes.
Let us know what's on your mind.
Let us know. Well, I hope that you have a great week, Adrienne. And
thank you. I hope that I do not get sick. If I am sick on this podcast next week, I'm quitting. Not the podcast, but
everything else.
Life. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You're not going to be. I have faith.
Yeah. I'm going to go stock up on my echinacea after this.
Yes. So that's what you should definitely do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
we will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.